The city council meeting for Monday, June 14th, 7 p.m. Roll call.
David Paradise.
Nicole Andrioff.
Kirby Moyna.
Tom Marsluck.
Sam Solars.
Jessica Bonniwell.
Ketchum.
Jared Bowden. Invocation. Pastor Paul.
You know, with the big screen, I can actually see how bald I am. Okay, let's pray. Dear God, first we want to say thank you on behalf of all who have gathered here today. Thank you for all that you have shared with us, for life itself, and for health, for friendship. Thank you for the chance to be involved in useful work and for the honor that we have here tonight. Thanks for loving us, even though sometimes we're not worthy. We want to pray tonight for these city officials and in particular for the needs that will be lifted up here today. We ask for wisdom to govern amid conflicting interests and issues of our times. We want to pray for all those items that are lifted up here tonight. Please give us an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Paul.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Need a approval of the agenda.
Chief Triplett would like to be moved to item 7A and push the public hearing down so that he can get his stuff done before he needs to change for his shift.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as noted.
I will second.
This will be B.
Any further discussion? David.
Aye.
Nicole.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
All vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. The approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I will second.
Further discussion? Sam.
Aye.
David.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Nicole.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. Fire Department.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Inside your packet is our activity report for the month of May. Fairly busy month, about the same as last year for the month. Other than that, that's really all we have for the most part. If there's any questions, I can answer those. Otherwise, the only other thing on my agenda is looking for request to purchase 10 sets of firefighting boots. They run about $450 a pair, and then 30 sets of firefighter gloves, not to exceed a total amount of $10,000. So gloves and footwear for firefighters is what keeps them happy. So if I can keep them comfortable and happy the best that I can by spending a little money here and there to replace outdated stuff, it's well worth the investment on that.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve purchase authority for 10 sets of firefighter boots and 30 sets of firefighter gloves not to exceed $10,000.
I'll second that. Further discussion on the motion? David.
Aye.
Nicole.
Aye.
All vote yes. Tom.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin. Now we'll move on to the public hearing. So I'll make a motion to close the city council meeting and open the public hearing.
Second.
Further discussion? David.
Aye.
Nicole.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. We are now in a public hearing.
we have any questions regarding the proposal to adopt a street reconstruction plan and the intent to issue general obligation street reconstruction bonds?
Before we open for public comment, I am going to invite Tammy Dahl up to explain the resolutions and the bonding bill.
Mayor, City Council, I think it's on now. Good evening, Tammy Umdahl with Northland Securities, and I will provide some background information on the purpose of this public hearing and the resolutions before the City Council this evening. So the public hearing was called related to the City Council's consideration of adoption of a street reconstruction plan. And the city has done this once before, back in 2017, considered a 5-year street reconstruction plan. And before you tonight is the consideration of the 2021 through 2025 street reconstruction plan. The reason this is before the City Council is there are projects that the City Council is considering financing through the issuance of general obligation bonds. In order to have the authority for the city to issue those bonds when any special assessments fall below a minimum of 20%, one of the tools that you have available to you under state law is the adoption of a street reconstruction plan that then gives you the authority upon a different action that's on your agenda tonight to consider the issuance of the bonds. You are not approving any issuance of bonds as far as the actual sale tonight. You are simply considering actions and approvals of resolutions that would provide you the authority at a later date to consider the award and sale of bonds. The street reconstruction plan, which I believe was in your council packet and notice of this public hearing was published in the newspaper, that notice included a maximum amount of bonds to be issued over that 5-year period. That doesn't mean that you use all of that authority, if so approved, but it would give you the option over the next 5 years to use that authority. A street reconstruction plan adopted by a city council following a public hearing such as tonight is subject to a 30-day reverse referendum period. So before you would have that authority to actually issue those bonds, 30 days would need to pass. If during those 30 days you received a petition from the voters, equivalent to 5% of the last municipal election, I believe your last municipal election was the general election in November, so if 5% of the voters petitioned to call that to a vote, meaning a referendum on the issuance of bonds. So tonight is to hear public comment on the street reconstruction plan. Following that, there is a resolution to consider for adoption of the street reconstruction plan. There's a second resolution related specifically to the 2021 A bonds. Mayor, I can either speak to that now, or if you want to hear public comment, I can come back up following the public hearing to speak to that item.
Yeah, I think if you're here now, I mean.
Okay. So the second resolution, which will come after the public hearing, relates to a resolution approving the issuance of general obligation bonds series 2021A. And these bonds are subject to the approval from that street reconstruction plan. There was a very detailed finance plan in your packet, and I believe available on the website as well. The total estimated par amount of the bonds is inclusive both of street and utility improvements, and it's estimated at $9,960,000. If you approve the resolution tonight related to the issuance of the bonds, again, you are not awarding the sale of the bonds. You are preparing for the sale of the bonds to come at a later date. And I will go into more details on the resolution in a moment. So the total principal amount estimated at $9,960,000. These bonds would be issued to finance the city's 2021 downtown improvements, which is part of the street recon plan, the first year, and to current refund the city's general obligation crossover refunding bond series 2012B. And those bonds are proposed to be refunded for interest savings only. The savings is not significant, but I have talked to staff that refunding these bonds would cover the cost of issuance that would be allocated to them. which reduces your overall financing costs because those costs are fixed and would have to be paid by the other portion. So it does include a refunding, not to restructure or push out principal, simply because interest rates are lower today than when those bonds were issued, and that's the sole purpose. The repayment term, so the bonds would mature annually on February 1, the same as your current debt, and they would mature between years 2022, so that would be your first principal payment, and 2042. As mentioned in the finance plan, the gross savings of refunding those bonds is estimated at approximately $30,000, so it more than covers its share of the cost of issuance. Estimated interest rates, we won't know rates until the date of pricing of these bonds, but the estimated rate, true interest cost, which takes into account the purchase price of the bonds and interest, is 1.67. So very low. And then that goes to the next point, rating. We are recommending that the city go out to seek a rating on these bonds. Your current rating, which is with Standard & Poor's, is a double A minus, a very strong rating. The reason, even though there's a cost to seeking a rating, the savings from lower rates from that quality of a rating more than offsets the cost of seeking that rating. And so you have traditionally in the past, Montrose has sought a rating on its bonds for that reason, and we're recommending it again. With respect to the type of bond sale, it would be a negotiated sale process. So the resolution tonight, if you pass it related to the issuance, would provide the authority to the mayor and the city administrator to sign the purchase agreement contract for these bonds if certain minimum savings are achieved and within certain interest rates. That authority is for a period of time, and I'm just looking at the resolution because the authority would be effective until December 31st, 2021. The advantage of, sometimes we refer to this as a trigger resolution, is that while proposed that these bonds would be priced on August 9th, if for some reason something's happening in the broader market, municipal bond market, that it does not make sense to price and sell these bonds on that date, under the authority by this resolution, staff and the mayor could determine to postpone that within these parameters that the city council would have approved and price it on a date that would be more advantageous to the city. So with that, Mayor and Council, there's a lot of information in that finance plan. I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have at this time or following the public hearing. And during the public hearing, I will defer to you if you want me to answer any questions that the public may have.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions, concerns, or comments from any of the residents? And if you come up, please state your name and address before speaking as well.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Wayne Bauernschmidt, my parents, Joan and Willie Bauernschmidt, live at 331 2nd Street South here in Montrose, just down the block. I'm here on their behalf, who was here about a year ago, inquiring about the assessment and the value that it brought to the modest residents that they have in their neighborhood. They live in the original town site plat, Block 3 and Block 4. And with that said, the curb and gutter and street improvements, while they support and have appreciated the 50-plus years of services that they've had, I guess they kind of question as to why the assessment originally were as high. So one, they would like to hear what the proposed assessments are if these bonds are issued for the improvements. Secondly, and talked with city engineer, Mr. Fogy, several times on this. They currently have stormwater runoff that divides their one lot in Block 3 in half. The city took it upon itself to, while there was culverts in the area, they were concrete tile culverts that failed in the mid-'70s. And the city took it upon itself to dig the drainage down deeper and encumber their property even further. Your current design shows on their property that there'll be an inlet dumping directly onto their property, collecting it off of the curb and gutter. And personally, I haven't seen that. I've done development work in the metro area a number of years. I haven't seen that type of approach. While this is an old plat, it divides a lot. For 50-some years. And I'm asking you, because many of you are new or on the council, to consider making that right at this time, getting it to the lot line. And my parents just want to be treated fair, one way or another, and have the city make its improvements. But two questions: assessment levels, and what can we do about stormwater runoff on their property. And I do have the letter that I had sent to the previous council last year. If you wanted a copy of it, I can make one. Thank you.
Jared, are you able to answer that second part by chance?
Sure. Mayor, council, as Wayne indicated, there is a swale that exists through the middle of the property. As part of the open house process and previous public hearings, that concern was brought up, and we do have a design to pipe that in lieu of the existing drainage swale, and I'll actually be meeting with Wayne after the meeting to review that. So,
Does that kind of answer that part of the question? As far as the assessments go, that won't be determined until after the project is done with, so it wouldn't be until somewhere around November of next year, correct? That would be a final decision made on. But I know that since the original project came out, they reworked it, and any possible assessments would be lower now because of how the square footage was changed, or how did that work out, Jared?
yeah, so Mayor, council, the action before you this evening is to provide an opportunity, as Tammy mentioned in her report, to assess less than the statutory 20% minimum for the other bonding authority. So ultimately, and Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong, ultimately this provides council with an option to reduce those assessments below that 20%, so that the assessment costs can come down.
Did that kind of help you out a little bit there?
I certainly want to respect everybody else's time, but on that, could I say one more thing? So with that said, you're dropping it below the statutory 20%. The benefit to the property owners, they have a decision to make here, whether they're going to proceed with legal action, if this truly is going to live to the state statute 429. If this assessment is greater than what they're going to reap as a benefit to their property value, which they all have sewer and water, they all have a blacktop road. Do they need curb and gutter? That's not for me to decide, or my parents to decide. But at the end of the day, if it's $25,000, $28,000 for a modest home of maybe worth $150,000, that's where you're probably going to need to decide what is fair to the property owners in the area. And they do have course of action that they can come back and take some legal action against you. I don't think anybody wants to do that. They just want to be treated fairly. So whatever you decide tonight has some ramifications as to what some of the property owners may decide to do. And so that said, that's where I'd like to hear what is the new assessments and what are they going to be, per foot of curb, storm sewer, sanitary.
Do we have what they were lowered by? I know we saw it a couple months ago, but
It isn't on your website.
It all depends, and I keep going back to the action before you this evening and the purpose of the public hearing. This provides an opportunity for council to reduce those assessments below the 20%. The original assessments that were provided to the public at the open houses, public hearings, were based on the city's assessment policy. And I think generally speaking, and I certainly don't want to speak for council, but generally speaking, I believe council felt that those are probably a little high. And that's why this alternative financing option has been brought before you, so that it gives you more flexibility in determining those final rates. And ultimately, they haven't been determined. They won't be determined until we get bid prices for the improvement. And so to provide a number tonight is impossible, quite honestly.
I just thought we had changed how we calculated it. There was something we took off of what,
The street piece of it out.
yeah. So it was only the curb and gutter, wasn't the street anymore, right?
Yeah, so with the street reconstruction bonds, that would allow the city council to remove entire street costs and only assess for sewer and water. And that's what's been generally discussed, but it hasn't been acted on, and therefore we can't provide a number at this point.
Right. And so this is just pretty much to give us the option to do it if we chose to after the project was over at the end of next year. But it's not to determine whether or not we're going to assess. It just leaves the option available if that were to be determined at that time, right?
Correct. For the street portion. Nope.
Do we have any further questions regarding the street reconstruction plan? Any other questions regarding the street reconstruction plan? Just one final, is there any further questions regarding the street reconstruction plan? Okay, I will make a motion to close the public hearing and open the city council meeting.
Second.
Further discussion on the motion? David?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Tom?
Yes.
Sam? Motion passes 5-0. We are now back in our regular city council meeting. And we need an approval for resolution 2021-15.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-15, adopting the street reconstruction plan and approving the issuance of general obligation street reconstruction bonds.
I will second.
Further discussion on the motion? Sam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-16, resolution approving the issuance of general obligation bonds, series 2021A.
I'll second it.
Further discussion on the motion? David?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Tom?
Aye.
Sam? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, we have a request for council action. Mr. Peter Loesch. Oh, yes.
Just 30 seconds.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy.
Apologize for the wait. Had surgery a couple weeks back. I no longer have a prostate, so I'm wearing a diaper, and that's why I needed to empty my bladder. Mayor, council members, thank you for letting me address you once again. Is Wayne ill?
Wayne's on vacation. It was pre-approved ahead of time. So.
Okay. So, my first question, or during the last council meeting, there was going to be some guidelines that the council was going to draw up or work on in terms of the conduct of Wayne. Has any progress been made on that?
I believe at the last meeting, the council had agreed that we were going to put a standard operating procedure where we were going to notify residents. I don't believe they said anything about conduct, and if they did, all of that would be private because it is a personnel matter.
So you can't discuss it at all?
If it's regarding personnel conduct, no, that's discussed in private meetings because of
Okay,
personal
so
information.
if I were to ask if there were any complaints lodged against Mr. McCormick since the last council meeting?
There have been none.
None?
Not that I'm aware of.
Really?
Is
City Hall if there were, so.
is there
Are you
some?
aware of any complaints, Sam?
Nope, I did have a resident reach out to me and ask me which direction to take it, and that's kind of where we left it. I told
Yeah,
her to reach out to me.
that she
I don't-
was
I don't know if
walking
she did or not.
through Forest Creek Park
Oh,
and almost got run over by Wayne?
yeah, but we had another Public Works employee witness that, and Wayne didn't do, she was walking very close to his truck and hit her elbow on the mirror, and he had started his truck up at about the same time. He did not try to run her over.
So was
I'm
she
not-
was walking her dog, and from what she told me,
This is what our Public Works,
this happened after a very heavy rain a couple of weeks ago, and that the ground next to the truck was muddy or wet, and she didn't want to walk through that,
okay,
and the truck was parked on the path.
okay.
So that's why she was so close to the vehicle. And Wayne saw her there and still moved the truck.
He said
You
he,
don't see a problem?
Why she isn't here,
I don't know.
is,
There's some people that get intimidated by public speaking.
well, and the report we got from the witness from Public Works was a bit different, so.
So there was some type of investigation or report?
Not a report, we looked into it, we asked the witness that was there from Public Works, and they said that
And does that person report to Wayne?
he does.
Okay. All right, let's move on to number 2. Mayor Kirby, you had stated that all the documentation regarding to the easement and culvert work done on my property and 2 others, all that would be released.
Yep, anything that's able to be made public will be. I know that you put on here that only 2 of the 3 surveys have been released to you. The 3rd one has not been done yet, as we haven't had a survey crew in town, so we weren't going to bring in one for just one single job in a backyard and then pay them to come out again in a couple months.
The work was completed in December of last year.
I'm just passing on what I was told, is that once we have another survey crew that comes into town, we will get the survey done, and then you'll be given a copy.
Well,
Jared, is it required that we get a survey done after that work was complete?
to make sure that the culvert is back to its designed elevation?
Yeah, so Mayor Council, the investigation was conducted, it was determined that the culvert elevations did not match the approved grading plan. As a result, the work was initiated with the contractor. Those elevations were staked for the contractor, and as staff, we discussed that the next time there is a survey crew in town, we will collect that information provided to both the council and the requester at that time.
So I've got handouts again. You guys can share. And for you guys here. So, I'm going to ask the city engineer, can you explain to me why the elevation in the picture is in, where it says low floor equals 962.77? Why is that in red?
That's no bearing on the survey, it's just
Well,
the lowest opening of that structure.
that's where the basement floor is, yes? Okay, and then the other handout I gave you shows the as designed of this portion of Forest Creek where the pond, normal water level of the pond is at 962, and a high water level event, it would be at 963.3. This house was built with the basement at 962.77, 6 inches below the water level of the pond. So the culvert didn't heave. The house was built too low. And the city lowered the culvert and the outlet to the ponds to accommodate this resident at 932 Breckenridge. You've set a legal precedent. Anybody experiencing water drainage issues can have the city fix it for them. Am I reading this wrong?
Yeah, the normal water of the pond is 962.0. The culverts, when they were surveyed, existed at 962.5. The approved grading plan for the development requires the culvert to be at a 962, which coincides with the normal water level. The high water level you reference is the highest maximum water level that pond gets to during large rain events. Ponds
Correct.
are typically designed for high water levels, but their normal water level is the level maintained based on the culvert elevation.
But that lot, which is signified by the green dot on the plat map, had this home been built by Feder or our homes or whoever it was, this is a home that used to be owned by Ben Kuehl. Is that I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Former council member Ben lived in this house, and it is a unique design. It doesn't conform to any of the other houses. He had this home built by an outside contractor. And according to the plat, the low point of the basement floor should have been at 965.3. And it was built at 962.77, almost 3 feet lower than what the subdivision was designed for. So this is not a...
I gotta clarify, that's the grading plan that you're referencing in 965.
Okay.
That's the elevation at the back of the house. That house was planned as a full basement lookout, which means that the lowest opening is at that 965.3, which would be the window you're looking out of in the backyard. It's not the low floor elevation. I just want to make that distinction because it's a big one.
Well, because you have another low opening of 966.19 on the actual photograph. Low opening 41 inches to floor.
I'd be happy to go over this with you after the meeting, but ultimately, you're right. 966.19 is the low opening of that house. Okay, so that's the window.
Okay, but they still,
Low floor elevation is 962.7.
and someone on the city council, when this house was built, approved these construction plans to put this basement floor below the high water mark of a pond that's 30 feet away?
I'm not familiar with the approval process associated with that.
Well,
But it's above the normal.
I mean, someone had to get a permit, a contractor had to get a permit to build a house, yes? So somebody that
There's
used
no-
to occupy one of these chairs when this house was built, approved.
And there's nobody on the council now that was here when that house was.
Okay. So I'm trying to figure out, was this complaint lodged by the new owner that Ben sold his house to? Or was it lodged by Ben before he sold it? And a house that's built has a basement floor that's lower than the pond that it sits next to. I'm thinking something like that should have been disclosed when the property was sold. If it wasn't, then Ben's got an issue. If it was, then the homeowner that owns it now has no leg to stand on to ask the city to fix it for them.
As far as I know, the homeowner did not ask the city to fix anything. It was determined by our engineers that the culvert was not in the correct elevation. That's why the culvert was lowered by 6 inches or 4 inches or whatever it was.
Well, we don't know that it was lowered because we haven't had the survey yet. We don't know where that culvert is right now because the survey
I
hasn't
can tell
been done.
just by looking at it and watching the actual flow now,
There's no flow.
there is flow. There's a lot of flow.
No, there
Yes,
is
there
not.
is.
The pond that is directly behind my house has receded by 30 feet or more. The culvert is completely dry. There is
Right,
no
and
flow.
When they dug it out, you could see the actual flow go from right behind 930.
Were you there when they started the work on it?
Yes, I was, sir.
The
I
east
followed
end,
it from day
the
one.
east end that was closest to this home that filed the complaint, the grading was completely covered with mud and reeds from the muskrats that built a lodge in that pond.
Yep, and I've seen.
But none of that stuff was removed.
I have seen the actual.
They did
homeowners
not
out
take
there
off
trying
the
to remove that
blockage.
stuff also.
The city didn't attempt to, they could have just sent 2 guys to spend 2 hours, remove all the crud, and the water would have started flowing. Instead, they went right to rip it all out. How many thousands of dollars did you guys spend on this?
But Peter, do you really think that the city just decided one day to go
I don't know.
dig up that culvert?
Did
in the
Wayne need
backyard and
approval
spend
to
money?
make all this happen?
Well,
Was a
he's-
council meeting or any
That's
kind of a
his
motion
job to make
passed?
sure that water flows properly through the communities in this town, right? That's his job. None of us are engineers. We have our engineer down there.
I'm
right?
not an engineer
They
either,
consult
but
with the
everything I'm looking
engineers.
at just doesn't add up. The house is built too low. The new resident comes in and complains because his basement is, or his sump pump is constantly running because the basement floor is
So
too low.
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I don't know. Did you guys do a favor for Ben?
Oh, come on.
Okay.
I think that's.
I don't know.
You're done.
We can move on to your third request.
you guys want to make a motion to turn over the paperwork for the final survey once that's complete?
Yeah, let's get him whatever he wants.
Well, within reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say we can give them a copy on the final survey.
Yes, copy of the final survey.
There should be a motion.
I'll make a motion to provide Mr. Loesch a copy of the final survey once it's completed.
I'll second that.
Further discussion on the motion? David?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
All vote yes. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. On my number 3, you know, I don't like being here. And as we speak, I'm not able to control my bodily functions, so I'm not having any fun at the moment, okay? But the city, by tearing up my yard, dropped a hot pile of mess, and I don't care where all the pieces go.
Okay.
Part of my yard is now unusable because it's just dirt and weeds. The seed put down didn't grow. No one came to check on it. It's been 4 weeks.
Are we addressing number 3 or number 4?
We're on number 3 right now.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Well, it was kind of
I just wanted to clarify.
combination. Sorry, Sam.
That's fine.
I did go.
Just wanted to clarify.
Well, what I'm trying to say is part of my yard is no longer usable. And there are other residents in Forest Creek who are using city land as their own, outside of their own property lines. So I'm asking the council,
Doing what with that property?
using it as their own benefit.
In what respect? Can you be more
Raised
specific?
garden beds, fire pits. If you look at the picture that I handed out,
Hopefully they realize that
the
they're
pond on has the pond that's almost in the center. That house that's at 1010 Christoph Court, they have a pier going into that pond. Has the city given permission to any residents in Forest Creek
I'm not aware of anybody
to
asking me
use
to put a pier in.
any city land for their own benefit?
I'm not aware of anybody asking for permission to put a pier in on a pond.
Well, they're not the only ones. There are two on Wyatt Court. No, actually, I take that back. It's Christoph Court. There's 2. There's one on Burton
So is
that has, I think, a raft or a boat along their pier.
is this you filing a complaint against those homeowners to remove that from the? I'm just asking.
Is there an ordinance that prevents people from using city land as for their own benefit? And if so, who's in charge of enforcing that?
Well, we talked about you and I had a conversation about easements. And if somebody builds something on a city easement.
I'm not talking about I'm talking about outside their property on city land, actually wetlands, designated as wetlands or park area. On city property, outside of their own property line.
I'm not aware of anybody that's asked permission.
Is there an ordinance against that?
Mayor, member of the council, and Mr. Loesch. There is an ordinance that deals with city property. The portion of your property that you're referring to is the right-of-way, and I think we discussed that at the last meeting. And
Okay, no, I'm using the damage you've done to my usable yard as a reason why I should be allowed to do what other residents are doing and occupy city land for my own benefit.
To answer your question about a specific ordinance that deals with city property or the right-of-way, that's the portion that's referenced in the letter that we sent you, and then also it was discussed at the last meeting. There is a specific ordinance.
I'm not talking about the easement.
Right.
I'm not talking about it within these people are beyond their easements. They're beyond their property line.
I understand that. So
Actually, if I'm looking at this property correctly, it looks like their property line goes all the way back including the pond.
Yes, but it's also a drainage and utility easement back there. All the ponds have that around them, yes?
But if it's their property,
Still-
is the point Sam's making.
It's still on their property.
Are all of them. So what you guys need to do is go through the neighborhood.
I'm talking about the one that
Do
you
you
just
want
brought
a
up.
specific address and a name? Is that what you're asking me for?
If you.
My
want us-
next door neighbor,
If you want us to take action on something like that,
Yes.
you have to file a complaint and give us the address of the complaint.
yeah, they have a raised garden bed outside their own property line.
Is
A
it
fire
outside,
pit.
is it outside the property line or
It's
is it in the
the
easement?
wetland area behind their house that is designated city land. They have a fire pit. They have planted trees and bushes that are not indigenous to the wetland area.
Well, like I said, I think for us to take action, you need to file a formal complaint.
I will be in tomorrow morning.
On that address.
And number 4. When are you guys gonna put grass back to where it's just dirt and weeds right
Well, it
now?
was already seeded. Now, have you been watering it?
Nothing's growing.
Have you been watering it?
Have I been watering it? Am I supposed to?
Well, we already had this conversation too, Peter.
I've watered my yard, but since you guys destroyed the easement area, everybody had to pull their irrigation back
you
out
asked
of
me-
that easement, so the
You
easement doesn't get watered
specifically
anymore.
asked me who was going to water that, and I said, you will have to water that because you're the homeowner.
No, I don't recall that conversation.
Well, okay, just because you don't recall it
So-
doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Okay, so just because you don't think the city did a favor for Ben doesn't mean it didn't happen either.
Okay, so Wayne had said before he left that they will reseed the area and they will throw
There is drought tolerant
they will throw
seed.
straw on top of it to make sure that it retains moisture, or moss. Yes, something will cover it so that it grows better. But if it's to be watered, and it's been a very, very dry couple of weeks.
Yes, it has. And
So-
I've run my sprinklers. It's not that I haven't watered it. It says
that's what I
seed
just
require,
asked you.
no, the seed requires you water it 2-3 times a day to keep it moist. And I'm supposed to incur that expense because someone built their house too low and you guys lowered the ponds?
It's not like you're going to have to turn sprinklers on for 3 hours, Peter. You need to make sure you keep
It's
it damp so it germinates.
2 different zones.
I know about.
It's
growing
2 different
grass.
zones.
Okay.
Okay, so you have to do it, what, every 2-3 hours? It's been so hot and dry?
During the day, you should water it about 3 times to germinate grass seed.
And are you
So-
going to reimburse me for that expense?
No, we are not.
Okay, so you guys are going to have to come back several times and
Well,
reseed this.
We're not going to have a fire truck come and water your lawn for you.
You
okay.
just did it when you planted trees this afternoon.
We're not going to do
At
that.
in the Forest Creek
That's a whole
Park.
different story, okay?
Have somebody come with a
So
water.
they will come out and reseed it, and then something will cover it so that it will help it to
When
retain
will they do that?
control. I would assume when he gets back, right? Yes.
And when is he due back?
I believe next week. Or is it 2 weeks? Wednesday? Okay.
Wednesday next week? He's due back, so it'll be done before this week is over?
When he gets back, we will talk to him and have him take care of it, and it'll be at the top of his priority list.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'll make a motion to direct Wayne to reseed and cover the seed at 905 Patriot Circle.
Well, not just mine, the other 2 yards that were affected as well.
Further discussion on the motion? Sam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Nicole?
Aye.
And David?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Open forum. April.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. 4671 County Road 12 South, Montrose. I would like some information about the retaining wall. that is supposed to be going behind the fence. If I could get that tonight. And I'd like to ask you about the trees that were planted today. It's great that the trees are planted. Tonight when I came up here, the shade from those trees is in the lift station. So I'm just a little curious on who placed them, proper placement. They're also oak trees, and they have acorns on them. I remember going to Park and Rec meetings where they discussed they didn't want things that would be dropping stuff because of a soccer field. So just a little information on what's out there now. When the sun goes down at night, the shade will not be out towards the field. It'll be behind the lift station, so anybody that wants the shade won't be able to watch out onto the soccer fields.
Jared, do you have anything on the retaining wall?
Yeah, so the retaining wall contractor has been obtained, and we spoke with him 2 weeks ago, and he has it on his schedule, and he's going to get here as soon as possible. He anticipated the first part of July is the last schedule he provided us. So
Did he say that he'll give us just like a heads up of a couple days or a week ahead of time? Okay.
Yep.
Can you tell me what the retaining wall is going to look like? Is it only a 2-foot retaining wall? Is it a 10-foot retaining wall? Is it like the retaining wall that they originally had on the park plan 8 years ago?
Approximately 2.5 feet, depending on the location adjacent to the fence.
Okay.
So we share those elevations with you.
And I would like that. I just want to point out that if you've been behind the fence on that property, a 2.5-foot wall is still going to leave you with a very severe mowing angle for the City Works employees. It's severe right now. Maybe you should consider that with this retaining wall because it will be there forever. The first retaining wall that was to go in was to be a straight up and down wall, level with the street up. I'm curious to why it's not going in that way now and why we're only going with a 2.5-foot wall and still, it's dangerous. They don't even want to mow it. So I'm curious about that.
We can meet with you in the contractor when he shows up. Make sure that
Well, I kind of like to know before he shows up on how it's going to go.
You and a couple of people may have looked at that wall earlier or last year.
We did look at it, but I had no say in how they were going to build it or how it was going. That's not what I have.
As far as the trees, the trees are up. I mean, some point of the day, the shade would go in the wrong direction. If you had an earlier, it would go the wrong direction. If they were on the other side, if they were on, an east or west side of the property, then they would not shade anywhere towards the field at all. But we have trees down there. Is there more that are going to go up as well, Jessica? Yeah.
Honestly, Ms.
There
Mayor,
were several trees donated by the Lions, and I believe for now that's all that's coming from the Lions. That's not to say that the city won't purchase trees as well, so certainly a possibility.
Yeah, and I'm not concerned about that. I just think that the first 2 trees that you placed out there are extremely poor placement. And I do understand the sun moves and you're going to have different parts shaded at all times. Soccer games are usually played in the evening, and for that to be over the lift station and behind the lift station is not a great thing for the only 2 trees you have out there in the first place. It was never marked before they dug with gopher. That was a little iffy. And when these big oak trees do mature and get bigger, they're right next to the tornado siren. So although they won't block the sound completely, they will muffle it a little bit, and it's got to go across that field and into that next neighborhood. And those trees are close. I mean, they're really close to that lift station. It would have been nice if they would have put them in front of the parking lot and not in front of the lift station. Honestly, you could have put them anywhere out there, and it would have been great, but where you have them now, it doesn't make any sense for the only shade that you have out there to be covering the lift station when prime playing time is, and then behind the lift station. So in the morning, great.
Okay. We'll look at that if they ever put more down there, and if we have any more donations for free trees. What was the last response to Visit Field?
Yeah, I've asked you to come out and visit the field. It's a great prime time to do it now since that field is kind of dug up. That way, you know, as you go forward, making plans for it, you know what you're dealing with. You'd be surprised what's out there right now.
You talking about the soccer field or?
Well, all of it. I'd like you to see all of it. I just want you to make the best decisions for the place. Right now, where you have the shelter to be built is right where the swamp part is.
That's all. That's been a joint thing that we did with Park and Rec a couple years ago, and it's more than just a couple of our decisions. Park and Rec will be part of that as well, and so I mean, but
no, I'm just asking you to come visit it, you know. And when I inquire about something, a response of some sort would be nice.
April, we have to remember, we have responsibilities to the taxpayers in this city. You're not a taxpayer in this city, but you expect people to jump through the hoop every time you have a text or a phone call. And I think that's asking a bit much.
It's not for me. It is for the city, and it's for the citizens. It's not for me at all.
Well, but you're the one bringing up all these issues about where the trees are and all this kind of stuff.
I
And really,
only bring them up because I've been here since the very start of this project. When they first brought it up, I've been here since the very start, and I've seen a lot of mistakes made and a lot of money spent that didn't have to be made. I've watched them bring in a company to pick the rocks over in the field, and the company never picked the rocks, but they did get paid for it. They parked their truck there for 8 hours, and they did get paid for it. And that's all water under the bridge. I just would like to see you not make more mistakes by not learning from what was made.
so
And
as
I'm not
far
asking-
as far as the response, I went out there with you last year. We were out there for almost
yes,
2 hours
yep.
talking and looking at the field. As far as not responding right away, I mean, sometimes I have things going on in my personal life where I don't check my phone for long periods of time, and
You could have
unless it's
responded today, and I would have been.
I responded to you as soon as I looked at it on Sunday, and then you sent another message, and I haven't got back to you because you were going to come up here.
Well, I do come up here, yeah, but I didn't know if I was going to do open forum tonight, so, yeah.
So we're going to get the regional parks all going to get taken care of, and as far as the plans for it, they're all set in stone right now, and it would take Park and Rec and a city council to come together and change it.
Can I just ask a quick question about the garden? Whose responsibility, is it in the contract with the people that have the gardens to weed whip the edges of it, or is it the city's responsibility to weed whip the edges?
The edges of the garden?
I talked to Wendy a little bit about this today because I talked to April this morning, and she thinks it's likely ours, so we'll probably do that as soon as Wayne gets back and he confirms that.
I'm just asking because the ones down at the end, the gentleman is doing them, and they look great. But if the sunflower field's coming in, some of the weeds are this tall next to the side of the garden. There is one garden that a gentleman has some water hoses through that he's buried under plastic, and that's how he irrigates. So you need to watch if you're weed whipping around that. I did point that out to Dan this morning, so he's aware of that. I just was wondering who was responsible for it. So, thank you.
Thanks.
And we will talk after the meeting about what the retaining wall looks like, or?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sheriff's Department.
Excuse me, are we still in open forum?
Did anybody else fill out a sheet?
I have some follow-up I would like to ask, please.
You would have to fill out hold up, Mr. Bauerschmidt, did you want to use your time, by the way? I saw that you, okay, that's what I thought, I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
You'd have to fill out a form.
Okay.
It's procedure and it goes into our file for everything gets kept.
All right.
Would it just be a follow-up on what you already discussed?
No, it's procedure. It's the way things are supposed to be done. So the question about watering. Last seed. And road opening of homes. Who gets it? So, okay, Michelle suggested that I ask, since there is a fire hydrant less than 50 feet from my front door, that the city attach a hose to it so I will water the entire easement that was destroyed after you reseed it. If you bring a long enough hose to reach the entire area, I will water it 3 times a day because I am currently not able to work.
You gonna drag it over to my house too and water my lawn?
No, I'm just going to water the easement where the city ripped up the yards and has not completely restored it to its original condition.
That's something that our fire chief would have to determine whether that's feasible or not.
Okay. And then on the low opening of the homes, Mr. City Engineer, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. All of the houses designed by Feder or Our Home have patio doors, walkout basements. So the low point of the opening is only a couple inches above those stated values as designed. Ben's house doesn't have a walkout basement. So his basement is at 962.77. That's the basement floor, the top of the floor. So his drain tiles and the sump pump pit are even lower than that, yes? By 2 feet or more?
I don't know how the house is constructed.
Well, I mean, the sump pit's got to be at least 1 foot to 2 feet deep. So,
They're not all walkouts, though.
I'm sorry?
Not all the Feder ones are walkouts.
So which ones aren't, do you have walkout? I have not seen a Feder home built that doesn't have a walkout.
We do have a walkout. I mean, I'm going back and forth with this. I mean, we could sit here and talk about elevations and all that other stuff.
Right.
I mean, this
But
plan
that
here
house
is
was
from-
built too low.
Right, okay, well, this is from 2004. I mean.
That was as designed.
Right.
That's the way the guy who designed it envisioned how everything should be.
Okay, so why, I mean, I'm just confused about something that's already been built. What are we trying to accomplish here at this point? I don't have a time machine. I can't go
He
back
told
in
me
time.
he wanted me to understand more how the low openings are, but all of the houses that have walkout basements,
Right, okay.
that value is within 2 inches of where their patio door is.
Okay, I understand that, but, I mean, we keep talking about this, but there's nothing we can do to fix that problem. We can't go back and fix
How much money did the city spend on lowering that culvert? Or if it really was lowered, because we don't know that yet.
pretty much guarantee it.
But by also digging out the outlet below the second pond, that second pond now is turned into a mud puddle.
I guess I'm confused by what you're trying to get to here. What you want us to do at this point to deal with something.
You
that
guys
was
sent a
done.
legal precedent. You did a favor for a homeowner when the
You
house was
say,
built
that's what
low.
you're saying, and I would be careful, what your accusatory tone about things. about us doing
You
favors
guys
for
don't respond to
homeowners.
my emails, so what am I supposed to assume?
Be-
I
oh,
sent two
be-
emails since I got out of the
You've been
hospital.
sending a lot of emails.
Two emails.
And we get to the point where, we've already answered.
Why did you stop
Questions were
responding?
answered, right?
Why did you stop responding?
Because we already answered the questions you were asking. And some of the questions you were
I asked
asking.
new questions.
What?
I asked someone to correct me if I was wrong about how the elevations worked, and I got no reply.
Okay, well, now we've gotten to that
So,
point.
you guys are
We
council
understand how we-
members, right?
Yeah, well-
You're here to listen to the residents and
Right,
citizens
and
of
we're-
this
and we're-
city,
And we are listening to you. But again, you keep
but
going
now
back
you're
to-
telling me you're tired of listening to
No,
me
I'm not.
because
No, I am not
you don't
saying that
feel
at all.
my
That's-
concerns are valid.
That is not what I'm saying at all.
You're putting words in people's mouth, Peter.
You're putting
Please-
words in my mouth.
Please don't do that.
All I am saying now,
And I'm just, all right, of the five of you,
Hold on one second.
Okay,
So
Mr.
there's- There was no personal favor done. The complaint went through all of the proper channels, and I'm fairly certain it didn't even start with going to the city, right? I don't remember who it went.
no, we went through Dan Nadu at the Soil and Water
Wright County Soil
Conservation.
and Water.
Right.
Yep.
So they.
So the note, that was dated, what, May 28th of 2020? Said, and in his email, he said that he received several phone calls leading up to his email. So who complained and on what date did they start complaining? That's what I'm trying to find
Wright
out.
County Soil and Water.
I don't think we're in the habit of releasing other people's complaints, are we?
Not typically, but in this case, I don't think that the city actually received the complaints. I think a lot of them went to Wright County Soil and Water directly. To my knowledge, that we have nothing on record stating that
And
there
I
was a
asked this
complaint.
question before, so that went to Wayne and copied the engineers, or the Bolton and Menk, or whatever they are. And they did the surveys. They did the work. But there was no council action required to make that expenditure? The fire department just asked to spend up to $10,000 on equipment. How much did it cost? How much has the city put into this so far?
Well, we're comparing
I
two
would like to
different
know
things
that,
here
too.
because Kevin comes to the city council with almost every spending
I'm not
request.
saying he
So
doesn't deserve what he's asking
Wayne
for.
has a certain budget that he can spend to do city repairs to help things within the city
Okay,
that he doesn't need approval for.
even when it requires destroying property of private residences.
We've told you that we will repair that and it is going to get worked on.
Yes, but my next door neighbor who had his irrigation hose ripped out of the ground isn't getting compensated for that.
But your next door neighbor is not here talking to us about that.
Like I said before, some people are afraid of public speaking, and you're,
We can't help that, Peter.
but you don't help because you're running this meeting right now, not the mayor.
Oh, I'm not running the meeting.
Yes,
I'm
you
just
are.
saying.
You
you're
are the
saying-
most vocal person on the council right now.
No, you're sitting there accusing us of doing favors for a former
No,
council
I'm not
member. and that-
accusing you. You weren't in these chairs when this happened.
Yes, you're right. We weren't.
So let's find out
So what
happened. You represent the city right now. So
That's
you're
right.
it. I'm
That's
sorry.
We fixed the problem that was
I understand,
taking place, and now we're moving forward because of the complaint that you filed. There will be more notice given to residents before stuff goes down on easements. Before, they only had to knock on your door, and if you didn't answer, that was them giving notice. But now, they will give prior notice before doing any work on anyone's property in an easement because of the complaint that you filed. So I understand that it's frustrating, but now procedure is going to change because of how this has all gone down. So, and when the survey gets done, you will get a copy of it. And as far as building the house, none of us were here when it was built. None of us approved it. We are just going back and Wayne fixed the problem that's been going on.
Is there a way to find out who approved those plans of that home when it was built?
I'm sure it was part of a lot of them were approved back then.
I
but
will
I'm-
be willing to come in and look through files if need be.
Can I ask what that will accomplish?
I'm trying to figure out if someone notated on that floor plan for that basement that it was going to be built under water level.
Is
And you're going to have water problems.
So is that something that we can discuss after the meeting so we can keep going with stuff? Because there are other.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay for the entire meeting. I don't know how much more time.
Well, if need be, we could set up a time at City Hall and discuss it
Well,
up there
I'm
as well.
coming in tomorrow morning. You guys are open at 7:30. I take it, Jessica, I have to come to you with my complaint?
Yes.
Okay, and then who would then handle trying to figure out if they could install a hose on the fire hydrant? That you said it would be the fire department chief or whatever.
We'll have to talk to Wayne about that.
So Wayne's in charge of the fire department too?
That's not what I said.
The fire department will not authorize public use of fire. If Wayne wants to do it on his end, that's on his end, like they do for their gardening stations, but the fire department will not open up the fire hydrants because they have to put a meter on it and stuff like that.
Right, we'll have to meter it, yep.
Okay. Thank you again for your time.
Michelle Otto.
I'm just carrying on where he left off, not 205 Garfield Avenue. So a simple fix, just to please the man, put the hose on the fire hydrant, put a meter on it. The city screwed it up. The city, it's simple grass seed. It's not that hard. To say the fire department needs to approve it, no, they don't. It's just like Kevin said, it's just like the gardens. Just put a hose out there, water the man's lawn, and let it get back to normal. And I'm sure he would stop coming, at some point on these things. Help the citizen. That's all you guys need to do. It's simple. Put a hose out there. It's not hard to figure this out. And to say that the fire department has to approve it, come on, Tom.
Well, I wanted to check with him. We don't just go out and tamper with fire hydrants without checking with our
Same as you
fire
would
chief.
out at the community garden. We water the lawn, everybody's community garden. The simple fact is the city did this to their property, reseed it. They already did once, right? Yep. And it didn't work. So just why keep
That's because it
reseeding?
wasn't watered.
Right, so why didn't...
Sprinklers only water my yard.
So just get a hose and reseed it.
Oh, I thought that was part of your yard, Peter.
5 feet on either side of the property line, plus 10 feet between the back.
Do you water the sides of your property? That's right. I'm not gonna share.
Sheriff's Department.
Mr. Mayor, council members, good evening. No trending crime or crime of note to report. Recommendation, make sure we lock our valuables and keep them out of sight. Any questions or comments or concerns for me?
Has there been any of the break-in stuff that they had last summer going on again or in Wright County at all, or not really?
I can speak for the Montrose Waverly area. From my experience, no. I haven't experienced any of that.
Yes, other areas have been getting hit very, very hard.
Are those the areas,
The south and the west metro, or west county, yeah.
are those the ones up like 94 area?
Buffalo, St. Michael, Otsego.
Okay.
So areas like that. They haven't gotten down here yet. They'll come.
Just the same recommendations. If your car's outside, bring your garage door opener inside, lock your garage door that goes from your garage into your house.
Anything else?
Have you got any fireworks complaints yet?
No, I have not. I've never seen it either.
You
Why?
You probably will.
Okay.
Seems to be that time of year.
Yeah.
I think that's all. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council activity report.
City Council, Parks and Rec.
City Council, Finances, Park and Rec.
City Council and meeting with staff.
Council meeting, Wright County Board of Commissioners, Wright County Economic Development Partnership.
Council meeting, planning and zoning, and finance.
Park and Rec.
All right, I'm going to try to be quick because I think people want to get going home. First off, I just want to make it known to the council that I do believe that when we did discuss trees getting planted throughout the city, we did explicitly say no maple or oak trees simply because things would be falling from them. And I do believe we actually specifically discussed planting fruit trees. I want to say that would have been December or January, or possibly during the fall.
I believe the Lions ordered them, so I don't know how much control they had
off
over
of
it.
our recommendation.
Because I know we talked with them during a meeting about it as well, so.
And unless I'm mistaken, I am pretty sure we did explicitly say no maple or oak because we didn't want the little helicopters or the acorns falling, and we actually discussed like planting fruit trees just so that they'd be a little bit more beneficial to the community and being able to, well, eat the fruit. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I do have a bullet point list of the different recommendations and repairs for Parks and Trail Plan. I forgot it. I will email a copy of that to Jess when I will probably do it tomorrow because I want to go home and go to bed. Do we have an update on the Adopt a Park program?
That'll be at the next Park and Rec meeting.
Okay. We did discuss that, just that we do, I don't know how familiar you are with the Adopt a Park program, but some of the parks that are currently adopted are adopted by people who no longer live in town and haven't lived in town for a handful of years, and that the expectations that go with adopting a park need to be revisited and readdressed with those that do adopt parks, and understand that it's not just your name on a sign, that you are supposed to kind of help with some of the just keeping it like cleaned up and some of that basic maintenance there, just like make sure that it's not, overrun with garbage, litter, etc.
Ashland, which parks do have the Adopt a Park program right now?
I know that Carverfield is adopted.
We're currently doing an audit on that.
Oh, okay.
I know that the family that is like the adoptive family of Lent Park has since moved. I'm not sure off the top of my head the other ones or who owns them or has them adopted. I just know that my family has Copperfield adopted. Okay. And in the past, my dad has gone and helped with the ballpark maintenance. When my brother was playing, especially, he would go and drag the field and stuff before games.
Okay.
And the city took care of lawn maintenance, and then I have seen some of the other ball families have chalk the field, etc. But it is my understanding that that the city is auditing and looking at who's currently adopted which parks and who else still lives in town. And I believe that'll probably just be updated at the next meeting.
Okay, who's doing that audit?
Christy.
Oh, okay.
Summer Splash?
Hold on, we got Forest Creek real quick. Then we'll jump down to Summer Splash. So we saw that there was a $36,000 expenditure for Jake's Excavating. I'm just curious about what that money entailed, what that cost entailed.
I believe it was for the grading and
the sidewalks.
Yeah, the sidewalks and the concrete underneath the.
So the reason why I'm asking is I was just really curious because I was under the impression that there was supposed to be some kind of work and development done with the developers for the excavating.
We did get some donations. We're working on getting those back from the Lions because they were had them. And
okay, so I thought though that the developers were supposed to be doing some of that work. I
believe we got a donation from the developers, and they, yeah.
I
And
think we
then,
had about a total of $10,000 if I remember.
and then Jake's Excavating also gave us a discount, so.
Okay.
Yep.
And is it possible for us to get a copy of the contract that Johnny signed for the sunflower fields? Just curious what his contract exactly entailed.
Do you want me to email that to you or bring it to Park and Rec or?
You can email it to me. I've been significantly better checking email, so that's perfectly fine by me. I believe Katie would also like to see a copy, so if you could CC her to that email, that would be wonderful.
We can do a hostage trade for the Parks and Trails plan.
I mean, that sounds fair to me.
Okay.
That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, can you just send that to all the Park and Rec members then?
Yeah, yep.
And then, has anybody had a chance to talk to Wayne about the condition of Lent Park and the skate park equipment?
We did talk to him a couple times about it, and Wendy and I and Aaron, I believe, went out there and we took a look with one of the Public Works guys, and we're not exactly sure what you're talking about as far as like damage.
My understanding is that there's just like rough edges. Some of the bolts don't necessarily look like they're in the best of shape. As I have previously stated, I am guilty as charged of not having gone out personally, just because honestly I go to bed pretty early and I try to avoid the rascals that are hanging out there.
I mean, we thought that maybe it could use a fresh coat of paint, but I mean, we ran our hands along a lot of the edges and stuff, and I really just, unless somebody come out and specifically show Wayne or one of the Public Works guys exactly what they're talking about, I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. I will ask for photos, and when I do have a day off, I will go out myself and get more specific examples.
Okay.
And Summer Splash. Any questions, comments, concerns? So
It said spending authority, so are you looking for an
Do you
approval?
have the numbers?
So it's looking like
We don't have a total yet, as far as I know. We have not been contacted back from Katie about that.
So Katie told me that, I don't recall if she said she left a voicemail or if that she sent an email.
Yep, a couple, both. And Christy tried to call her back and couldn't get a hold of her. And then we did not get a final number for that and what you want to go above and beyond just the pieces of equipment.
So I will have to, I don't recall where she said she had called, but she did get a quote for $450 for, I believe, a dunk tank and the like slip inside water bounce house. And that includes setup and takedown by the company that it would be rented from.
Yep, and that's a good price, and we were just kind of waiting for her to call back.
So I believe she said that it is a $75 deposit that needs to be put down and then the rest of the money to follow, and that she's willing to donate the $75 for the deposit. She just wants to...
Not necessary. I mean, that the amount of the $450 is within my spending authority right now, so we could definitely put the deposit on it, and then when you guys get a final figure, maybe we can come back and at the July Park and Rec meeting and get, you know, a motion from you guys, and then get final spending authority in July.
I did send her a message. I did actually try to call her before the meeting, but I think she had to work late today. But I do believe that that is a final number for those two items, is $450.
That's, yep.
But as I said, I do not remember exactly what she told me because I did not get that in a message. I was on the phone with her. I just know that it was not through CLAT.
Yeah, I didn't think
so. But the advantage here was that they will come set everything up and take it all down.
No, I'm sorry, how long were we talking? Do we have a time frame as to how long that's going to go?
For the event, it's we're looking at 3 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay.
I did reach out to Boy Scouts to see if they would be willing, if they would want to do a small fundraiser and just sell some like hot dogs, chips, etc. But it looks like they're actually leaving for Alaska on the 22nd. So I will be reaching out to Girl Scouts. I just don't have as many Girl Scout contacts. So I will be reaching out to Girl Scouts as well to see if that is something that they would be interested in.
And the event itself is planned for July 24th.
Yes. from 3 to 7.
Yep.
Thank you.
Unless you guys see an issue with that. Our thoughts were if we get a local group to come out and do food, we could also catch, a little dinner rush there and allow more families to come out and enjoy that time for those that do have to work on Saturdays without it just being an evening thing as well.
No, I think it's a good time.
Okay.
All right. And then we also were looking at Montrose, A Night to Unite. Okay, so Montrose Night Out, they just wanted to say, do things in the neighborhood, so that's the first Tuesday in August, just to keep that in the neighborhood. But then we were looking at doing the Night to Unite, which is like the food truck, just another repeat of the food truck event that happened in October, and then plan that again for this upcoming October. So just reaching out to food truck vendors and seeing if they would be willing and able to come out and just allow us to have a more family-friendly community event. And then, it's not in the minutes, but I'm curious about April's application for Park and Rec.
It's going to be on the July Park and Rec agenda, so you guys can approve it or deny it at that point, and then it'll come to council.
So it is my understanding that we actually don't need to make that approval, and that it can just go straight to council. And if it's all right with you guys, I would just like to send it straight to you guys then.
Well, it'll still go in July, because we can't add it tonight still. We don't have the application here, so. Because the plan was to send it to Park and Rec for their approval.
Okay. If that's the way it has to be, it's the way it has to be. I just noticed that with, I believe it was planning and zoning, they just moved their recommendation to take it straight to council.
We're going to talk about
And
that
we
coming
have
up.
her application though. We have her application.
Okay.
And planning and zoning made a motion to push it to council, so.
Okay. I think that's all I have for you guys today. Any questions?
And then you also had asked to have soccer nets at the regional park on the agenda.
I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. I was looking at the minutes, not the council packet. So I was going to ask if it would be possible to just for this summer to move the soccer nets from Regional Park over to Lent Park, just because that's where the community has seen them. We did not advertise them as going to Regional Park this year, and then advertise it as in addition to Regional Park for the next year. Just because it was my understanding at a winter meeting, I don't recall the exact month, I was under the impression that we were going to be keeping them at Lent Park for another year before moving them over to Regional Park. So would it be possible to just send them over to Lent for this summer and then just give the community a chance to know that we're moving them to Regional for next year?
Sure, I like it. Let's move them back to Lent Park.
Okay.
Do we want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
Yeah,
that
let's.
the soccer nets move from regional to Lent Park.
Second. Further discussion on the motion. Sam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Nicole?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thanks, Ashlyn.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashlyn.
Planning and zoning.
Oh,
At the last meeting, we were at an impasse with Catherine's Nyberg's application. We had a motion, and there was only 3 people there, so it was a 3-way split. That's why it came to council for their recommendation.
So my thoughts is that it should come back to when you guys have a full 5 of you there, or at least 4 of you to take a vote on it, as well as that if she's interested, she should show up to the planning and zoning meeting, because from my understanding, she wasn't there, right?
she was not there.
So that was, and I think that was something too that one of your commission members had brought up, is that they wanted to meet her and talk to her beforehand, and they didn't have that chance to.
Yes.
Correct. So we can take that up at the next, July planning and zoning meeting.
That's what I would say.
Okay.
Mayor, I have a question. If you check your ordinances, it doesn't, no commission member needs to be approved by planning and zoning or park and rec. It goes straight to council. So why you keep bouncing back and forth, it's just wasting time. It's gonna go back to you guys no matter what anyways, because the decision is not made by planning and zoning, and the decision is not made by park and rec. The decision comes back and it's made by council.
But their job is to give us recommendations, and it's joining,
Right.
it's adding a member to their commission. And so if they don't feel a member would be beneficial, I would like to hear that input. Same with Park and Rec, same with, you
I
know,
understand
EDA.
that, but I would like to know, since it is on your agenda, your thoughts. I mean, because all you're doing, like I said, is throwing it right back. And then it's gonna be, your council meeting is gonna go probably before the planning and zoning, so technically it won't go until August. So, and it is also my understanding that this application came in maybe a month or more, so it's already been put out because whatever reason, I don't know. I mean, I do know and I can speculate, but you don't want me to put that on record, so why don't we just make the decisions? Why keep bouncing back and forth? Just take control of it, say yes or no, and be done.
Well, at least for this one, I think it would be fair. Roger specifically said in the planning and zoning that he would like a chance to talk to Catherine on this one. And I totally agree with that. If they're gonna sit down and, work together, I think he has the right to understand what he's and who he's working with.
I would agree with that as well.
Okay, so that's kind of where we're at right now. I mean, and she wasn't at the meeting either, so he didn't have a chance to even ask any questions. And I
And
think,
she's not present tonight.
and she's not here tonight.
Can you pull the application up?
Yep, can you find her after? It's page 59.
Or just say what the date is on it. Is there a date on it?
May 10th.
May 10th.
Okay. So you're gonna make somebody who is volunteering to be on a commission, who is very knowledgeable within the city, wait until August for a final decision.
Well, I think it'd be fair for,
I can understand Roger being new, I understand that, but again, I mean, it's your decision.
I mean, there's no reason to rush it, Roger would like the opportunity to talk to her.
The reason it keeps getting put
Right,
off
I-
is because of feelings towards the certain individual.
I have nothing to do with that.
Nope, you're totally new and
I don't have any.
you don't have nothing to do with it either. I get that, but
What-
in my opinion,
Okay, that's your
the
opinion.
reason it is continue to be put off is because of who the applicant is.
Okay, so at the last planning and zoning, I mean, there was only 3 members there, Chuck, Sylvia, and Roger. Chuck and Sylvia didn't see eye to eye on it. Roger, again, would like to abstain from that. So in order to, make him feel more comfortable on the decision that he's gonna have to sit down with somebody, I mean, it seems only fair to him. And again, I mean, it would be nice for her to come here and, either to the planning and zoning and say, here I am, do you have questions? I think that's, should be part of this process.
Fair enough.
Do you have an update for us from the meeting, Chuck?
I do. We don't have a meeting, due to the timing of the June planning and zoning meeting, staff wasn't able to include the minutes for the, planning and zoning June 9th meeting. They will be available at the July 12th council meeting. At the July 12th council meeting, we will be bringing the Overson second edition proposal forward, for final approval. This was, initially recommended for approval, with some caveats and notes from planning and zoning, the planner and our engineers. Staff is also going to present an ordinance amendment to the current parking pad ordinance at the July 12th meeting. The changes to this ordinance were also recommended for approval by planning and zoning.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the council? City engineer.
Good evening, Mayor Council. The item in your packet this evening is related to the 2021 Downtown Improvement Project. As we're all aware, in July and November of last year, council embarked on a process to improve the roadways identified as part of that project. At a meeting, we talked about the north side, or First Street North, and the railroad easement that's required as part of that project. As the plans have been, or continue to be developed, and conversations have been had with the railroad, what's before you this evening is actually a recommendation to split that project into 2 phases. Phase 1 being the area south of the tracks, Phase 2 being the area north of the tracks. Completely up to council, but the benefit of doing so would allow construction to begin in 2021. I have spoke with the railroad. They are processing our application, but could provide no anticipated timeline associated with that. So that's the option, or the recommendation actually before you this evening, is to create 2 phases with the project. The first phase being that area south of the tracks. That would provide an opportunity to advertise for bids in July, receive them the end of July, and then review those bids for the Phase 1 improvements at your August 9th, or at your August meeting, and then that would provide for construction to begin in August or September. I will note that the entire south side, or Phase 1, as we're suggesting it be referenced, will not all be completed in 2021. So there's a definite phasing plan that would need to occur, and whatever pavement is removed as part of the project would need to be replaced prior to winter. So there's a resolution in your packet this evening, and the recommendation is ultimately to, as we wait on the railroad's response regarding the easement, to move forward with Phase 1 improvements, which would be south of the tracks. And with that, Mayor, Council, I'll answer any questions you might have.
So would that push Phase 2 back another year then, that other part? Or could that still possibly get done next year?
That would be the intent, is to continue to move forward to get that done next year as well. The timing of the railroad is really what's driving this. So it could be advertised later this fall and for construction to begin in spring, but definitely the intent would be the north, or Phase 2, First Street North, to be completed in 2022. Yep.
Okay.
Do you have a slight concern about the late August, early September, especially that area that goes to Montrose Elementary? If you're looking early September, that's going to be right when school's starting. So, I mean, I guess it doesn't need to start at that end, but
yes.
What kind of effect would it have on the school?
Yeah, so as part of the contract documents, the contractor definitely needs to provide a phasing plan, and the primary utilities work that they're going to need where they're going to need to start to build the sanitary sewer, because that's where those projects always start, is not near the school. So it's more downtown, and like I said, they might not even get to that yet this year.
Okay, thank you.
We'll definitely note that though.
Thank you.
Did you say First Street North was 2022?
Yeah, so that's currently what's being discussed. Yep.
Any more questions for Jared? If not, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-17, resolution approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids.
I'll second.
Further discussion on the motion? Nicole?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. Do you have any more updates for us, Jared?
No, I incorporated the railroad update into the discussion.
Perfect. Public Works.
That's me. Okay. Mr. McCormick just gave me his notes here. So the first thing is to request the purchase of a handheld tablet to read our existing water meters. Due to increasing internet security and upgrades of software and systems, the current handheld device the city employees use to read water meters needs to be upgraded from a Windows 6.5 device to a Windows 10 or higher. City staff received a quote from our meter suppliers, Metering and Technology Solutions, for a new handheld tablet at a cost of $7,600. We are told this device should last the city at least 20 years, and the device is necessary in order to continue to read meters monthly. City staff is requesting the spending approval of $7,600 to purchase the new Yuma tablet handheld device.
Gotta love the updates in technology.
Yeah.
So looking for a motion to approve that purchase of the handheld tablet.
So moved.
I'll second.
Further discussion on the motion? Sam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
I'll vote yes, motion passes 5-0.
Okay, and I have included in the packet a memo regarding Mr. Ryan Eichens, one of our Public Works employees. The Personnel and Employee Development Committee previously agreed that Mr. Ryan Eichens would be promoted to Operator 2, and would be giving a $2 per hour pay increase as soon as he was able to pass his sea wastewater exam. Mr. Eichens recently passed this exam at the end of May, and staff is recommending the promotion and the $2 an hour pay increase for Mr. Eichens.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to promote Ryan from Operator 1 to Operator 2 with a $2 an hour wage increase.
I'll second that.
Further discussion on the motion? Sam?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
I'll vote yes, motion passes 5-0. Seasonal lawn mowing?
So Mr. McCormick had a very hard time getting seasonal maintenance workers this year, as many places are paying as much as $20 per hour to mow lawns for landscaping services. The city does have 2 summer employees that are mostly full-time. I believe one might be part-time, but Mr. McCormick is looking into lawn maintenance services going forward, since getting summer help has become increasingly difficult in the past few years. So just a heads up for you guys for next year.
Okay. Did he give any further updates?
Nope.
Okay.
The signs,
The what?
the signs for enforcement, you said you were gonna start.
The signs have been put up.
So there are signs out at Regional then?
I believe he put ones up for no overnight parking and for no ATV and snowmobile use.
I haven't seen them, but I'll look when I get home.
Yeah. If not, let me know if that's not been done.
Old business. CR Electric accounts payable question?
Okay. So in response to an open forum request, staff has provided the requested information. So the CR bills for the ice rink project, one of them was $5,950. The other one was $2,550, which is $8,500, which was the amount quoted in the bid. And then the second item is the city administrator contract authorization. It looks like former Mayor Michelle Otto did sign off on that.
Correct, but what my question was on that was, yes, we did sign off on it because it was council approval, so I have to sign off on it. But my question moving forward, when we had that discussion when Ms. Belter did it, I objected to it because the city should not be paying for that purchase of a private contractor. But again, it was signed off by me because it was council approved. My question is why did we do it again?
Why did we use a private attorney again? Why did we use the same attorney?
Yes, for the, pretty much the same contract for another $1,000. And why did the city pay for it again when it was talked about at the last time was when Ms. Belter did it, that the city should not be paying it. That was discussed by Mr. Mange.
His recommendation was that typically is not paid for by personal employees. The city pays for it, and that you should go out to get a separate company to do it, so there's no conflict with the city attorney.
So then my question is at last council meeting is our city attorney aware of the contract? Did our city attorney look over the contract before council approved it or anything in that matter?
Mayor, members of the council, and Ms. Otto, I am familiar with this agreement, and I believe at least the agreement for Ms. Otto or Ms. Belter's work predates our firm's involvement. I think also the second contract that you're referring to, but it's also, in my experience, not unusual for a city to, for example, contract out for specific legal services like this. So, it's probably something that would be addressed on a case-by-case basis, but it's not unusual for, a city to hire a different law firm for specific legal services. So, but I believe this particular agreement that you're referring to predated us being appointed as the city attorney.
Right, yes, I believe it was as well. But so setting precedents, as I disagreed with it before, the city then will continue, if need be, to pay for employees, private attorneys to draw up their private contracts for their unions or said employment agreements?
That's what we did off of the recommendation from the council at the time. If they have different recommendations in the future when that comes up, then we'll
So at the
deal with it
council
at that
time
point.
being last month?
What do you mean?
Well, because last month is when you approved the second contract. That was the only wording probably in the original contract from Ms. Belcher to Ms. Bonniwell was probably names.
There was a lot of similar, I have the amounts and the invoices right here for it.
Right, no, I'm talking about the wording. What was there?
A lot of the wording was the same. We left it a lot the same.
Exactly, so I'm saying
Any chance that if you have an attorney update something, if they have a
Costed
chance
us
to
another
bill it,
$1,000.
they're going to bill you, whether it's someone we have under contract or somebody that we're not, we're still going to get billed for it one way or the other.
So what I'm asking then is it going to be normal precedence for the city to pay for a private contractor for their private?
If we have to go through a contract, stuff like this again, we will base it off of the recommendation we get from our attorney at that time.
Okay, and then when is the union negotiations coming up? Do you have two contracts due this year?
I believe they'll be,
We don't. It's just the AFSCME union this year, and then they're revisiting a portion of the 49er contract.
Right, so when does that come up? When are you guys going to start doing that?
should be soon. They haven't set a date yet.
Yeah,
They
no
just
date
said that
is
it's going to happen, but there hasn't been a date set.
I know, so as, I'm assuming that the mayor and acting mayor, which is you, Kirby, and Tom, are taking care of that, correct? So in years past, it's been us reaching out to get the contracts going, since we are into June, and the contracts expire in December. What, you guys should be kind of on that, because there's a big things that are coming up, considering at the last contract, you guys talked about, or it was discussed to stop paying the 100% for the insurance for the employees and their families, contingent under them getting a raise, but they still got the raise along with the approval of the contract. So
No, they did not get the raise.
that would be false.
They got a merit raise, but they didn't get the
They
raise
did
that was
not get-
proposed in the
They didn't
contract.
get the exact raise that was proposed in, yes, correct. But they got raises back in October as well as April, and then again in January.
They got their cost of living and their merit. They did
So-
not get the 5% bracket adjustment.
Correct. So my question is, are you guys going to start getting these contracts going? Because you have right around 6 months now.
Well, we appreciate that input, and we will get back to you and let you know what the date is that we sit down
Thank
with
you.
the union.
I'll send you an email and we'll see if you respond, and considering I ask these questions quite frequently and you don't feel it's necessary to answer those questions. So, thank you.
You'd never sent me a question like that.
New business, solicitor and peddler permits.
So staff has been, we got a couple calls from residents saying that there were solicitors in their neighborhood. Last time we discussed this, it was during COVID, and we kind of put a hiatus on all the permits for solicitors and peddlers. You guys need to make a decision on whether or not you want to open that back up. Nobody has come to get a permit from the city, so whoever is out there soliciting is doing it illegally, and we have told those residents to call Wright County. So I don't know if that happened, but so you guys need to make a decision on whether or not you want to continue to not allow solicitors and peddlers, or to allow that.
As much as I would like to say that I don't want solicitors and peddlers that have a permit to come to my house, I think now that things are opening up and the governor has lifted restrictions on that if they have a permit, they should be allowed to. Otherwise, they would have Wright County called.
So I just want a motion just to open that back up so we can reverse the one that you did before.
Make a motion to allow solicitor and peddler permits in accordance with the city ordinance.
I will second.
Further discussion on the motion? David?
Aye.
Tom?
No.
Sam?
Aye.
Nicole?
No.
I'll vote yes. Motion passes 3-2. Upcoming meetings. Planning and zoning on July 14th. EDA, June. Wow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
June 15th at noon. Park and Rec, July 8th, and the regular council meeting, July 12th. Acknowledgements. I'd like to acknowledge Jared for all he put into this month's packet. There's a lot of information from you in there, so appreciate that, all the work you guys do, and the city staff. And then just an acknowledgement for Flag Day today. So it is the anniversary. 1777, I believe, is when the flag was adopted as our symbol. So with that, if there's no further acknowledgements, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
David?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. We're adjourned.